Good afternoon, dear distinguished members, dear colleagues. First of all, let me thank you very much for this invitation. The World Heritage Convention is very important for Ukraine, as well as for other countries. And now I would like to send you the most warm greetings from Ukrainian colleagues who are now under fire, trying to protect the cultural heritage objects of Ukraine for all humankind. I would like to show you a number of examples of destructions, but also to propose a few points for future. When the war has started, we tried to protect our objects, architectural objects, monuments at the streets and squares, museum collections in Odessa, in Lviv, in Kiev, and in numerous other cities and villages of Ukraine. But Russian bombs and rockets brought death to Ukrainian land and damages to Ukrainian cultural heritage. For example, to small museums like museum in Ohtyrka in Sumy region in eastern part of Ukraine, where more than 10,000 of objects were kept before the war. Or to Chernihiv for this beautiful museum building, one of the oldest museum building of Ukraine, where the collection of Ukrainian antiquities were kept at the beginning of 20th century, and the library was situated until last month. Or to cinema centers in Chernihiv, or to museum objects in Zaporizhia, where the museum buildings was damaged and the number of museum objects from the collections were looted. Or for Ukrainian Orthodox Church in different regions, and numerous churches were damaged. And also for university buildings like this one of National University of Kharkiv, or for wooden church in Kiev and Zhytomyr region. And for the theaters, and here you can find one of the most tragic episodes of the war, because the Mariupol drama theaters was not only the architectural monument, but also a shelter for more than 1,000 people inside. And the damages were brought also to small objects like this small train station in Ohtyrka, or to large-scale objects like Kiev TV Tower, which is a monument of architecture and urban planning. And for living building, for example, for the buildings in the city of center of Kharkiv, the buildings of the beginning of 20th century with beautiful interiors. And for small museums, which were not an architectural monuments, but kept priceless collections of Ukrainian antiquities, like this one, museum in Ivankiv village. And also for archives. And here you can see the security service of Ukraine regional office, where the priceless archives of repressed people connected with the repression of 30s of 20th century were kept. And now, unfortunately, the documents were lost in fire, and the building, which is a monument of architecture, also was seriously damaged. Government of Ukraine collects all this information, and we established a platform, an online platform, for the collecting of the information also from the citizens. And now more than 170 objects are verified for this platform, but the list of objects becomes more and more longer every day, unfortunately. You can see some examples of the registration of objects. And well, now we are at the period when we can and we must think about the future. And we divided it into three steps. First group of steps, it's an emergency response. The second group of steps is the reconstruction and repair immediately after the war. And the third group of steps are connected with the sustainable development and strategies for long-term perspective. And I would like to tell a few words about all of them. Emergency response is the period which we have now, and we need to act. So we appreciate very much any international support. For example, the support of the request of Ukraine for the status of World Heritage Sites in danger for Ukrainian objects, or request for transferring the World Heritage Committee meeting from Kazan to other city, for example, to Ukrainian Lviv. We also will appreciate very much any targeted assistance for Ukrainian institutions and its teams. It could be packing materials or some kind of equipment, or financial support for the professional, in particular for those of them who were forced to leave their cities, or who have lost their homes, or still live in the cities under occupation, or stand with their museums and institutions at the fire line. We also need to collect some funds to cover different kinds of emergency needs here in Ukraine. Very important also is the fixation of damages and destructions via satellites. So we need to have the photos before February 24th, before the first day of war, and after this date, up to nowadays. And also some kind of fellowships or study trips for Ukrainian specialists will be very important, especially for those of them who are in a different part of Ukraine now, who leave their homes, or for refugees, or also for all those of them who are now in army and do not have any possibility to leave Ukraine now, but they will need support after the war. The second group of steps is connected with the reconstruction and repair after the war. So among the most important of them are observation and fixation. And what do we need for these steps? We do urgently need standards, expertise, first of all, international expertise, methodology, recommendations, and any kind of equipments and instruments. Standards and expertise are also very important for urban planning and restoration, which will start immediately after the war in different regions of Ukraine. And we also will appreciate very much any kind of financial support of the process and projects. For example, for restoration of objects, both movable or immovable, or for establishing the national digital platform for cultural heritage, or any instruments of control and monitoring of the objects and urban planning situation, which is always important for Ukraine. And a few last words about the long-term perspective. The aim of this period is to establish the ecosystem of national heritage, which will include both cultural heritage objects and natural heritage objects. So what do we need for this period? Analytic tools, standards, expertise, methodology, and recommendations are useful and always important. Cultural heritage management policies, trends, and best practices we need to know. And we also have now our own experience, which could be useful for other countries. Innovations and standards in professional educations at university level, first of all. It's crucial for development within the next 10 or 20 years, because we need to establish a new standards for restoration, for urban planning, and for many other spheres. So all of these steps needs to be provided with the financial support of the processes and projects. And also very important is the development and support of non-governmental sector, I mean professional NGOs, networking projects, international cooperations, and the strengthening of the role of professional and civil society organization. It is crucial for the future of Ukraine and for the protection of its cultural heritage. So thank you very much for your attention, and please do not hesitate to contact us for any questions. I hope that the experience of Ukraine will be useful for other countries, for our colleagues which faced with the same situations or with other situations which need to provide with the risk management. So thank you very much, and hope to see you in Ukraine within the next few months, maximum 1 year. We will have a lot of work and we will need your support. Thank you very much.